Oh, let's look for Divine Star. And today I just want to quickly go over Alpha 1.3 for Divine Voxel Engine, what I'm going to be doing for 1.4, and then after that, I'm just going to be talking about Dream Space Infinite for a bit, where I'm going to be going with that project, and kind of what it really is. So just real quick, let's look at the release notes for Alpha 1.3. The biggest thing you need to know is I added a plugin system. So with that plugin system, we got infinite world generation, and I broke physics out into its own plugin. So these are, they're not official parts of the engine, but they are still made and maintained by me. They're in their own separate folder, and you have to include them into certain contexts with the that are being used by the engine to actually use them. Uh, infinite world generation, it works a lot better now since the last video I made. It's a lot more efficient, a lot faster. Water flow works too, and so do automatic light updates. Another thing I did was to improve the process of making custom voxel shapes and templating that. The voxel constructor objects are a lot more intuitive now. It's just so much easier to use the engine nowadays. I've fixed some stupid bugs. I'm not gonna go into that. Everything works now. This last thing here is probably the biggest thing I want to talk about. Is I added floating origin support. Floating origin is basically just a process where you keep the world centered around the player. So instead of the player or the camera actually moving through the world moves to the player. So this way you basically have not to deal with any floating point errors whatsoever. So I made some pictures where I was chilling out at like 2 billion meters out in Dream Space Infinite, but that was only possible because of floating origin. So this is part of the engine. The only thing that is kind of complex is that now the engine has to use a custom calling strategy when doing floating origin just to take into account the offset. But that's taken care of. So now I want to look at first the pre-beta checklist. As you can see, most of it is checked off. So I'm getting very, very close to finally releasing stuff as beta. And if we look at Alpha 1.4, this is what I'm going to be doing for Alpha 1.4. Just kind of the biggest highlights is I'm going to be getting water removal working properly. There's been a few bugs. I'll see how long it will take me, but it's definitely just going to be one of my main focuses, is just trying to get the water algorithm sorted out. The water flow works perfectly. It's just removal is just kind of iffy sometimes. So after that, I'm going to be working on rich data. So that means, like, if this was Minecraft, rich data is something like chest data, anything that just, like a sign, anything that stores text, anything like that. I'm going to be adding support for that. And I'm not going to be using JSON objects. I'm going to be using something called Divine Binary Object, which is another library I wrote that makes it easier to turn objects into buffers and vice versa. The reason I'm using that is because I've dealt with insane problems with memory leaks and memory usage when using JSON. After that, I'm going to be working on the physics plugin. I'm going to be just trying to make it easier to do things like immersive audio and projectiles and all that kind of stuff. Because I have a lot of spells and stuff that I want to make, and that involves like a projectile that can go out into the world, and just when it lands on a voxel, it will place a voxel right there. So that I'm going to be making changes for that. And lastly, just some quality of life improvements for the render thread, just to make the changing of scene data like the fog and fog color and all that a lot easier. So now let's look at Dream Space Infinite. So this is the game that I'm making with the Voxel Engine. This I'm going to be releasing as free. It's not going to be under the MIT license. I don't want people just to copy paste my hard work. So the assets are going to be copyrighted and the code is going to be source available, but this is not going to be something you can just copy paste. Unlike the engine itself. So the engine is still always going to be free. It's always going to be under MIT. This game is going to be free. You can play it, but you can't just download it and say it's yours. So that's the important thing. And that just helps me stay motivated and consistent on the project, because I would not be very happy if someone just stole my stuff instead they made it. So what I want to show you specifically is waterfalls. I made a video about it, but this is one of the biggest advancements in the... Oh shit. Wrong spell. This is what I meant to do. Not blow everything up. I was going to show that off, but yeah. Sorry, that's just so awesome. I love looking at that. But yeah, the infinite world generation automatically does waterfalls for you. So the way it starts is that in the world generation for this, it will place a water source block all the way up there. And then it runs this task called propagation. So what it does, it literally scans an entire world column to see if there's anything that needs to be propagated. And propagation includes things like water and light. So, well, this isn't technically water, but that's whatever. So it will run all the light updates, it'll run all the water flow updates. It's very efficient, it's very fast. It's pretty sweet though, that I can have this giant infinite world with all these crazy waterfalls and all these insane amount of light sources, and it's just engine can just do it no problem. I can turn the lights down and yeah, this is sweet. I've been working on world generation a bit for this. I've been improving things, but yeah, this just really shows you what the engine can do, what you can do with the engine as well. But I've had people come to me, they're like, hey, I want to use your engine, I want to do this stuff, but I know nothing about coding. Or I've only been a developer for like a year or two. And making something like this, even just using my engine, is not a beginner-friendly task. When I started this project, I had to literally this thing you're seeing right now is using like 15 other mini libraries that I wrote all together, and there's almost 600 files of code already, and I barely got it started on this project. And I'm a one-man team. So, like, unless you're prepared to deal with something like that, you know, just, I don't know, just spend a few years tinkering around, learning. Just, you need to spend time and you need to learn. You need to develop skills. You need to learn how to read code. You need to learn how to dissect stuff. You know, it's a process. And I've been through that process. But I've also been programming since I was 12, so I just have a certain set of tenacity where I'm not afraid just to jump into something and just feel stupid until I don't. That's the best way to put it. Just feel stupid until you don't. Just keep going at it. But anyway, I think I've talked too much. I think you get the point. Hopefully in the future I'm going to be talking less and less, and it's going to be less about me and my project and more just about what I'm making. I would rather people know my project's name and not mine, if that makes sense. Because to me, my life is my art. My life is not me, my life is my art. Very different. Very different perspective. But anyway, thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next video.